every once in a while I get maybe every week I get poster children for the idea of how does God take your passion and use it to build the kingdom. And there's a scripture, I've forgotten the reference, but it says the kingdom is advancing forcefully and the forceful take hold of it. And so when I think of that scripture, I can't help but think of my good friend Nikita Koloff, and the Russian nightmare himself, the devil's worst nightmare. And
that's right.
You're taking hold of it forcefully, like every weekend almost, doing these man up intensives, right?
Storming the gates of hell, Robbie, with force. That's exactly right. And man up intensive. We're going to be at your church here June 8th with the man up intensive, Asheboro.
Right. Coming to Asheboro, North Carolina. So as we talked about, you could drop your kids off at the zoo and then, your whole family, and then go up and spend the day with us. West Asheboro Baptist Church. Again, you can go to kingdompursuits.com and register there, or christiancarguy.com and register there. It's $29, includes lunch. But most of all, you get to see Jesus through the ministry there. In other words, it's a really cool thing through whatever ministry you're being touched by. If they're doing it right, they're like a looking glass, right? You're looking at Jesus as he reflects Christ and as a man, right? And I've heard it said that, if God's going to plant a man tree, what kind of fruit might he expect? Man fruit.
Hello, come on. That should be a given, right?
And so we got to learn how to man up. And I'm going to be honest, I really didn't understand all that, especially with all the stuff that machoism, takes on a bad rap for a lot of things, but other things it gets it what it deserves. But nonetheless, there is biblical ways to do that. And Nikita brings that in a way that only Nikita can. Again, that's coming up June 8th. But also, talk about forceful. We have Laura Z. Powell, who I understand knows, did you say jujitsu or what?
Yes, well, ITF Taekwondo is our foundational martial art, but I actually train at a mixed martial arts school. And so we incorporate jujitsu, boxing, karate, hapkido. And
see the lady.
No wrestling, though. No wrestling.
No wrestling.
Not yet. Okay.
Why don't you join us, though?
Maybe I can incorporate that into what you're doing somehow.
Absolutely. Come on over, show us some techniques, and we'll take it on.
There we go.
Body slamming is always, jujitsu with a body slam. All right.
Yes.
That's right.
Take them off the top rope.
We do lots of body slamming. In fact, right now, I'm there. We're having a workshop on throwing people around properly and landing properly when we get thrown. So that's what I'm missing.
I wish I had learned that. That would have helped me in the wrestling business. But learning how to fall properly.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, Laura is, part of a conference is coming up actually next Friday.
That's
right. It's going to be May 31st through June 1st. It's Our Strong, and you can hear she's strong. Our strong tower, which is a ministry to Muslims. How cool for such a time as this, right? A national apologetics conference. And this is the third annual one, right?
That's right. Yes. I believe there have been more on the West Coast, but this is the third annual East Coast, Our Strong Tower conference. And talk about, needing manly men, courageous men, godly men with passion and desire and courage to step up. Ministry to Muslims is not for the faint-hearted.
No,
it is. In fact, it can.
You may need that jujitsu.
you may. That's right. That's right. And they certainly need the Holy Spirit. And so it's exciting to be a part of that. As you said, for such a time as this, Muslims are coming into our country in droves, and they need to know the reasons for the hope that we have.
Right. And it really is some of the neatest testimonies I've ever heard were how God reaches Muslims. Right.
Yep.
Here's some people that are so radically against God.
Right.
They don't know they're so radically against God. They're
Right.
just deceived like I was before.
Right.
But just radical.
Mm-hmm.
But then God gets hold of him in radical ways. And
right.
So it's really cool. And, just it looks like you've got Reverend Anthony Rogers.
That's correct.
So tell us about the Rev.
Well, he is a true scholar and a quite the man of God. He has an interesting testimony. Speaking of people who were radically against God, and then God got a hold of them. He served time in prison for crimes he had committed, and God got a hold of him, I believe, in prison. And ever since then, he has just been on fire, speaking the truth. He's a brilliant man.
Was he Muslim?
I don't believe he was a Muslim. I don't believe so. But he has a great mind, and he is always, as he reads the Quran and the Hadith are the traditions and teachings of Muhammad himself, whereas the Quran is believed to be the direct commands of Allah, meaning God. And Anthony Rogers is always noticing new problems to bring up and new ways to approach Muslims.
Now that I think about it, he's got some YouTube videos, doesn't he?
He does, yes.
And he is a scholar. You are exactly, and I mean, he brings some really logical arguments.
Yes.
That like make sense of this.
Yes, that's right.
There's no, and really, uncovers some things that, like, if this was going to happen here, how in the world was this not in existence till then? And all these things. It's really, really, really good stuff.
Exactly.
But you guys know as well as I do, it's when you go to reach cults, you can't argue your way into the deal. You know how I know that? Because I was in Scientology for, I don't know, probably 8-9 years, and actually worked for the Church of Scientology. And because of that, I worked for the C organization, which means you're in it for eternity. I get calls at least once a month, and I get more mail than you could imagine from the Church of Scientology. So I've had so many opportunities to witness to Scientologists. I really thought that they would stop calling, because, I've had some effect over the years.
Right.
but I have tried arguing, never works. But you know what seems to work with Scientologists? Now, I don't know about Muslims as well, but although I've witnessed to Muslims at times, is what I have found most effective with Scientologists, because they really think they're on the right track.
Right.
I mean, they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't think it was the way to God, however that worked for them.
Right.
Is, I tell them, man, I loved my time in Scientology, and I did. But man, I found something that just blew my mind. And you wouldn't believe what it's done for me since I found out the truth about Christ. What? There's a truth you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we like to do is to borrow a phrase from Greg Koukl, who's a Christian apologist. We like to put a stone in their shoe. In other words, give them something to think about that bothers them until they do something about it. And so we want to give them something to think about. And then, of course, the Holy Spirit kind of takes it from there. But we want to give them something that they have to think about. We also want to,
I would say that since they're Muslim, probably a stone in their sandals.
There you go. There you go.
I could take some heat for that one. I'm sorry.
Just putting it in perspective, Robbie. You're just putting it in perspective here. Let's drive the point home.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That was bad. I just, I was thinking about it. Well, Anyway, sorry. We digress hugely.
I digress.
But something that I'm really passionate about is that, I used to be intimidated or embarrassed to go talk to people about the truth. And I realized it was because I didn't know the reasons for the hope that I have. And so I'm passionate about equipping Christians to know evidence so that they are more confident to approach people and give them something to think about. You
can see how I wasn't kidding. We're talking about poster children of passion, right?
Yes, sir.
Like, this is it today on Kingdom Pursuits. We're so glad you tuned in. And as you might guess, we have some shenanigans coming up after this break. And of course, you're going to have a chance to win. Oh my goodness. We have an amazing book for you. We got all kinds of goodies. You stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. You get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container, because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Having low income can mean making tough choices. Choosing between paying for food or medication or a place to live is a reality for many people. Do you know someone who could use some extra help? Find out about the Supplemental Security Income Program, SSI, administered by Social Security. You could receive monthly SSI payments if your income and financial resources are low and you are 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability or who is blind. SSI is money you can use to help pay for basic needs, like putting food on the table, keeping the lights on, paying the rent. It can mean new shoes for growing feet or help with medical needs. Call 1-800-772-1213 or visit ssa.gov/SSI to schedule an appointment or start to apply today. That's ssa.gov/SSI. This message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
I want you to imagine for a moment you're in a hospital. You are the patient connected to an IV bag. There's a constant parade of serious doctors, countless tests, endless pokes, and a serious diagnosis. Scary surgeries are followed by painful recoveries. You're in the hospital for days, weeks, months. Now imagine experiencing all of these things and you're only a child. This is why Starlight exists, to bring happiness to hospitalized children through programs that help kids cope, build resilience, bolster confidence, and change their outlook. Programs like gaming, virtual reality headsets, toy deliveries, radio flyer wagons, and cozy hospital gowns are just a few of the ways Starlight eases a child's hospital stay. Because happiness matters. Visit starlight.org to learn more.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Kingdom Pursuits, where we hear how God takes your passion. And we're talking passion today on Kingdom Pursuits and uses that to build the kingdom. And boy, oh boy, is that fun to watch and take part in. And so we got all kinds of that going on. But, you know, we're talking about this Man Up Intensive again that's happening June 8th. So next Saturday, you can go to the Ministry for Muslims in Kannapolis. It's actually at the Charity Baptist Church. Or a week from Saturday on the 8th, you can come to the Man Up Intensive at West Asheboro Baptist Church with Nikita Koloff. How fun. And we can enjoy his passion. Amazing stuff. But, you know, it is the Man Up Intensive. So speaking of men.
Now the fun begins. So now it's time to play shenanigans.
All right, we got a special Man Up edition of Shenanigans. I know you've been waiting on this your whole life. So speaking of men, I have one especially for Nikita. We'll see if he can get this, Carmen. All right, Nick is on vacation. He's actually on a mission trip to Colombia. So I got my old producer, Carmen. It's very exciting to have her back. But speaking of men, someone once told me a joke about Macho Man Randy Savage. Talk about a man. But I can't remember the punchline. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I don't know. Jump into a Slim Jim.
Yeah, say that one time a little louder so our listeners can hear Randy.
Oh, yeah.
That's the punchline. Oh, yeah. All right, we're going to try this one on you, Carmen. Why did the man, we're talking about men here, why did the man get hit by a bike every day?
He probably just wouldn't listen.
Ooh.
I resemble that remark. My wife would jump on that. See. That's a great answer. Wrong, but great answer.
That's pretty
Maybe
funny.
our other special guest here knows the answer to that question.
Do you know?
Oh, I mean, that was my guess. He didn't listen to
They
his
didn't
wife's
listen.
advice.
Well, it's like that. He was in a vicious cycle.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
merry-go-round.
Yes, yes. And so you knew that we would actually have a question that you could call in and win today. And I got to tell you, we have these books that we want to give away. Just a tremendous book. It's called come to me. It's right there, those white
blank.
books. It
Hope
says
in the morning.
Hope in the morning. Yeah, my memory is gone. Then there's hope for it in the morning. Okay,
There
so
is
it's
hope.
MOURNING. In other words, it's a different take on morning. So you know somebody that's in morning. This book is fabulous. It's got John Erickson taught in there. It's got Alistair Begg and just chapter after chapter of folks that have gone through severe mourning and the scripture that they used and all sorts of stuff. It's a best-selling book. We got that for anybody to call in and win as we ask this question, which I think is hilarious. As I told Nikita when I wrote it, it just tickled me so much I just sat there and laughed. When Eve, you remember Eve,
Yep.
way back in the original female version,
when
she struggled with a menu. Have you ever noticed that women struggle with a menu ever since?
I am a witness to that. I am a witness to that. I raised 4 daughters. I'm a witness to that.
Yes. When Eve struggled with the menu, since that time, why is it, do you think, that all men struggle to man up? If you have an answer to that, right? When Eve struggled with the menu, why is it that all men after that point seem to struggle with manning up? If you know the answer to that, you can call us at 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. And Carmen, maybe you can get the name of this book right. Tell them what they'll win.
Yes, they'll win a copy of Hope in the Morning.
Hope in the MOURNING. I did an interview with this young lady the other day that was part of the project. She's not the author necessarily. All the people that wrote their stories are the author, and it's just a fabulous, amazing, best-selling book. And she wants to get it to every minister out there. So we would love to get you a copy of it. Maybe you know somebody that's really going through a tough time in that. This book is amazing along those lines. You call us. When Eve struggled with a menu, all men since then have struggled to man up. If you know why that is, 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. And so we got 2 amazing conferences, right? That I think it's really beautiful that God continues to give us opportunities to do things that change our life. And when I said this on the Christian Car Guy show, maybe I said it on this show, I don't remember. It all runs together for me now. But, when I started going to man up events, we'll say that way, it radically, I loved the invitation was to spend time chasing after the heart of God. So the way I look at both these conferences, they're both the same thing, right? You're going to take a day of your time, right? Which is not a huge deal in the scheme of things, and take that day and chase after the heart of God in 2 gigantic ways. The way I look at it is, one is I'm going to pursue what it means to create man fruit, right? Seeing that I'm a man tree that's been planted, or, to understand the reason for the hope that's in me. Now, yes, it's ministry to Muslims, but as you understand how to, witness to a Muslim, it really is more based, isn't it, Laura, on understanding your own faith?
Yes, that's a huge part of it. In fact, my 2 talks are geared toward any Christian or anyone, regardless of whether they ever encounter a Muslim in their entire lives. So I'm sharing evidence for Jesus' claims to deity, evidence for the crucifixion, and evidence for the resurrection of Christ, without assuming any sort of supernatural assumptions about the Bible. Now, I do believe that the Bible is the authoritative, inspired word of God. However, a lot of the people we talk to do not believe this yet. And so I'm going to teach people how to make a case for the resurrection of Christ
Now,
without assuming
I'm sold.
supernatural.
Tell me, how do you make that case to somebody that has never, like the Bible's what? How can you make a? I know they need to come to the conference to get the full blown.
Right.
I understand, but
that's right. Well, there are dozens of facts that virtually all historians of the life and times of Jesus agree on, including things like he was crucified under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. His disciples believed that they saw him alive after he had been killed. Even if they don't believe that Jesus really was alive after he was killed, historians will say, yes, his disciples believed that he was alive, that they saw him alive after he was killed. They will, virtually every historian you ever talk to will agree that the Apostle Paul was a persecutor of Christianity who became convinced that Jesus was resurrected from the dead, that James, the brother of Jesus, was a skeptic who became convinced that Jesus was risen from the dead, and that the testimony, the proclamation of Jesus' resurrection occurred very, very early on. There are a dozen other facts like that. Those are just 3 or 4. But using information from extra biblical sources, as well as taking the Bible as just another history book. Again, that's not what I believe about the Bible, but people can generally can go with me to, that the Bible is, at least at a minimum, it is a history book that we find quite reliable.
And also, from what I understand, from a standpoint of ancient manuscripts, the most verifiable book in the history of the world.
Absolutely. And by far, exactly. We have the very early testimony, over 5,800 Greek manuscripts, over 20,000 manuscripts in other languages besides Greek. And the evidence for the early and reliable testimony of the Bible is very, very strong. But even with extra biblical texts from people who were not Christians, people like the Jewish historian Josephus and Lucian of Samosata, and people like this who Marabar Serapion, people who were not Christians, who never ended up becoming Christians, but still testified to some of the things that happened during that time. We can make a case that the resurrection of Jesus is in fact the best explanation far and away for what happened. And then we also will look at some of the competing explanations, which have all been debunked, not only by Christians, but by atheists and agnostics themselves. They will all say none of the naturalistic explanations that we know of today are reasonable. And so the best that non-Christians can say about Jesus is that something happened. Well, we know what happened. And so we can make a case for that.
Yeah, it's important. And so, Nikita, from your standpoint, right, you're doing these Man Up conferences, and part of manning up is, having a faith, right?
Right.
Is believing what you believe. And having that as a basis for, doing things like witnessing, which actually takes a phenomenal amount of courage, right?
Well, there's several things come to mind as hear our sister here speaking, and even what you were saying is part of the introduction, that God has a heart not only for Muslims, God has a heart for men, God has a heart for humanity. And interestingly enough, just recently I came across a number of different individuals, professed atheists for essentially the majority of their life. Give just one quick example. Sir Thomas Scott, Chancellor of England: until the moment I thought there was neither a God nor a hell, now I know and feel that there are both, and I am doomed to perdition by the just judgment of the Almighty. Sir Thomas Scott, Chancellor of England. And so we're challenging men to certainly walk in the truth, biblical truth, and whether it's leading their own life or leading their families,
We'll be
Hi,
right
I'm Martha
back.
Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. Many of these animals are rescued from desolate conditions. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals for more than 140 years. They help ensure that pets have a safe, warm shelter during times of need, especially during natural disasters. But pets need forever homes too. Adopting a shelter pet enriches the lives of one's family and allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work, including their efforts to rescue animals in need, certify the humane treatment of farm animals, help ensure the safety of animals on the silver screen, and protect our planet's amazing endangered species at AmericanHumane.org.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive, like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
My name is Judy Teeter, and I'm the mother of 3 boys. My youngest, Joe, was a great kid. He loved sports, music, and his youth group. One day, Joe asked me to drive him to an after-school event, which was about a mile from our home. I was driving through a green light when a car in cross traffic ran a red light and drove right into the side of our car, killing Joe. The driver was talking on her phone, so she never even saw the red light. She was so absorbed in her phone call. Before the crash, I didn't realize just talking on a cell phone while driving was so dangerous. Now it's something I think about every day. According to the National Safety Council, about 1 in 4 car crashes involves a cell phone. Hands-free is no safer. When you're behind the wheel, put away your phone. For Joe and for the thousands of needless deaths every year. Remember, there is no safe way to talk on a cell phone while driving. Find out more at nsc.org/callskill.
Oh, welcome back to Kingdom Pursuits, where we hear how God takes your passion and uses it to build the kingdom. And we are talking with a Bound Up conference coming to West Asheboro Baptist Church with Nikita Koloff, the Russian Nightmare, like I've talked about. And I there's no there's no, the effect that this man can have on your life through Christ. In other words, Jesus is actually coming through him, but he has a very unique, like how many people do you know that, played football in college, next thing you know, got a random offer to, show up in Charlotte to shave their head and become a Russian. And, and, from Minnesota to that. And then within a year, be the national, or I guess world tag team champion. Right. Just a meteoric, the way he describes it, rise to stardom. But knowing his story as I know it, it's because of his discipline. I mean, I know because I'm around him a lot that he doesn't, he just doesn't go to restaurants and eat because he's Nikita Koloff. I mean, he comes in, he's got his bowl of oatmeal and he's got his blueberries, and he's going to pour them in there. And, and the legends of when he was wrestling, doing the same kind of thing. In other words, lifting weights, being in the gym, doing certain things that way. But that all applies to the idea of discipleship from a standpoint of in the word, studying those things. But as he talked about emotionally, physically, and financially. Like, oh my goodness, he can impact you financially. It all has to do with, similarly, discipline and the help that's available without judgment with somebody that really has what I call grace. It's just absolutely amazing. That's coming up June 8th. And then we've heard all about a very, very cool conference, Ministry to Muslims, coming to Kannapolis. But you can tell for all of us, man, hell is a horrible place. And what an opportunity we have while we walk this earth to invite people into paradise rather then horror. But I got Jim is in Greensboro, and he knows the situation with this menu problem that Eve had. She struggled with that menu. And I don't know. Should we go with the oranges? I just don't know.
I think it was figs.
Figs. Jim, you're on Kingdom Pursuits. Good morning.
Good morning, Robbie. I hope you and everyone are doing well.
I am.
Robbie, this is very good. This is a stretch, really a stretch of my imagination. So bear with me. Bear with
All
me.
right. I'm bearing.
Initially, Eve did not know how to cook very well. It was a trial and error situation. So Adam, who was madly in love with his helpmate, did not want to tell her that she did not have good culinary skills. That's my response.
I think you're exactly right. You're going to be, not only, and I've decided to increase the prize package. Not only are you going to receive a Hope in the Morning book, but if you like, we will give you not one, but 2 tickets to the Man Up Intensive in Asheboro. If you would like that, we would love to have you come out, George, since I know you're not terribly far from West Asheboro Baptist Church if you're in Greensboro. And that way I get to meet you, and so does Nikita. So you can make up your mind. Yeah, you can think about that, but we would really love to see you. I'm going to put, pardon me?
When will I have the privilege to meeting both of you?
That is June 8th, which is a week from Saturday. It's
2 weeks from today.
It's 2 weeks from today. That's another way to put it.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today, and it starts at 9
a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to provide lunch, have some fun stuff giveaway at the end, and would love for you to join us, be our guest, and join us. And it's going to be a great time of equipping men.
Right. And you, like I say, bring somebody, grandson, son, whoever you like, friend. Yeah. So I'm going to put you back on hold so Carmen can get your information. But that was probably one of the best answers in the history of Kingdom Pursuit, George. Jim, I'm sorry. Jim.
You humor me, Robbie. You humor me.
Well, you humored me, believe me. Thank you so much, Jim.
Culinary experience.
Yeah, it was.
Love it.
She probably, it wasn't an apple pie. I'm just saying.
It was not. She was just learning to cook over an open fire. I've got a feeling. So, with a woman in the house here as well, we're having fun here today at Kingdom Pursuits. Right. Come on.
That's right. And it's not like he could, encourage her. Your cooking skills are so amazing. You have such talent that, you know what? I want to help maximize your talent by sending you to paying, helping to pay for you to go become even more masterful in your cooking skills. I mean, there probably weren't those options, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to say. But what I do know is that, we all had an opportunity. I hope you have, if you're listening, you had an opportunity to come know Jesus. But Jesus wants you to be so much free to share the gospel, or free in your financial situation, or free in your, you struggle with that donut, there it sits.
There it sits. The freedom of choice. And, Robbie, let me say real quick, I was thinking about the conference next weekend, and there in Kannapolis, Charity Baptist Church, the Muslim, whether it's ministering to Muslims or ministering to your family. I'm reminded of, I think in 2 Timothy, the 1st chapter, don't be ashamed of your testimony. Don't be ashamed of your story. So her equipping of people to minister to Muslims, our equipping of men to minister to one, live it out, be a man of God, godly husband, godly father, godly grandfather, then not being afraid to share your story, being bold and courageous to share your faith and share your story. Be passionate. Here, right? We're talking about passion today on Kingdom Pursuits, being passionate about your transformation of how you came to Christ and telling others about that.
Right. And there are all those opportunities for all of us
every day.
But the beauty of it is it really it's at the heart of chasing after God.
Mm-hmm.
Like however it is that that God gives you those opportunities, which, by the way, every morning it happens. You know, you got choices as you go through that day. Am I going to chase after God? And then he drops that person in your lap, or he drops that situation for such a time as this, because he knew that you didn't just want to come to Christ. You wanted to live in Christ, and you wanted to be, you know, part of that transformation. Because again, as Alan said in the show we just did on a Christian car guy, which, you know, still resonates, is other people are watching. How is his life different since he came to Christ? You know, what did he do in order to make that happen? You know, and just to encourage you, Nikita, I was, you know, calling a friend I hadn't seen in a few months because I knew he was ill, and you know, talking to him on the phone, he was going through a lot of pain in his back. He said, "But Robbie, I got to tell you how much you encouraged me when you lost all that weight." And you know, because it would be pretty normal for him to go eat with us, and he knew that, you know, Robbie was getting lettuce. he knew that some discipline had happened, but you know that it's really a joy to feel like you get that. But again, it happened through prayer. It happened through a lot of things that focused on that. But it's the same way with your ministry, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Discipline is a huge component of it. If you think that, you know, you can just kind of maybe even just come to our conference for a day and an evening and then be completely equipped to have an impact for the rest of your life, that's not really realistic expectation. We're going to hear from speakers who study day in and day out, and we are going to give you some equipping, some ideas, and try to make it easy to remember. But really, it is a day in and day out decision to be courageous, to speak to people, to pray,
and to step into learning, which is really fun. You can tell how much joy these guys all had.
That's right.
In figuring all that. Wow.
And when you fail, to just get back up again and keep going.
There you go. Go to kingdompursuits.com. Both are right there where you can just go sign up, you know, man up or Muslim up. How do you want to do it?
I finally got a new helmet.
I did. Spotted cheap online. Follow me. We'll turn off here.
I'm right behind you.
Watch the cars. They can be crazy.
Honey, no! Are you okay? Somebody do something!
Was this young man hit by a car?
Yes, and his helmet is smashed.
It's a brand new helmet.
It's probably a fake.
Fakes cause real harm. You're smart. Buy smart. Brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
Happy kids heal faster. That's why Starlight Children's Foundation is dedicated to improving the mental well-being of sick kids, regardless of their illness or injury. When a child is hospitalized, they are scared, lonely, and stressed. Being in hospital facing painful treatments takes away from the happiness of childhood. But that's where Starlight comes in. At Starlight, we provide entertainment through our gaming stations, comfort with our specially designed hospital gowns, play with our toy deliveries, and distraction through our virtual reality headsets. Starlight programs are what happiness is made of, the things that make being a kid special. The simple power of a smile. Delivered to over 800 children's hospitals and medical facilities across the country, can make a lifetime of difference for sick kids. Learn more at starlight.org.
Each word is a testimony.
Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for.
And his word is always true on the Truth Network.
By your presence, Lord.
Welcome back to Kingdom Pursuits, where we hear how God takes your passion and uses it to build the kingdom. And part of that, clearly from my perspective, is all of you, right? All of your passion as you think about it, and the passion that God has given you, and how do you use that to build the kingdom? And faith brings light. It brings courage, right? And courage allows you to step into like, oh man, I don't want this poor Muslim guy to face eternity in hell. I don't want that, right? And so it takes something that you wouldn't normally do. And a lot of people don't believe this, but I tell them that I grew up one of the shyest people you would ever meet. I would not go into a store. I would not pick up the phone to call anybody. Those were things that I would never do because I would have to face the cashier if I actually bought something.
Yep.
Right? And, some people don't ever mention that they were divorced. I am. And my first marriage ended because I would not go into the store to buy the dog food. And she knew, but I would not man up because I was so scared. Of course, I wasn't a Christian at that point in time, and I had no idea how to get the faith to actually do something. And so the idea of doing the Christian Car Guy Show was terrifying. Terrifying. I can never, ever forget, as I look through this glass to this day, that producer looking at me and pointing his finger at me and going, "You are on." And, it's live radio and there better not be any dead air. He had told me before we went on the air, and I had no idea what I was doing. But, as you walk in the faith of, okay, I am with you. I will not forsake you. I'm going to be with you in this. And the joy that I've had in the, 18 years since then is off the hook because I walked into the, what I knew he'd asked me to do. And it's the same way, right? I can't imagine what you faced the day that you went into the arena in Raleigh, and you're supposed to wrestle a guy on national TV and you don't know the first thing about wrestling.
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah, no amateur background, no professional training. I show up the day Jim Crockett's office day says to be there. Put me right in the interview said, and they say, "Hey, you're going to wrestle on television tomorrow night." Having never been in a squared circle. Yeah, no pressure there whatsoever. And fortunately for my opponent, it was a very short match, and fortunately for me, but it was trial by fire for sure. But yeah, there was you might say there was a few butterflies and involved there.
You never wrestled. I can never get this through my brain. Never once wrestled amateur.
Right.
Never once had and boom, within 24
right.
hours of him saying, "Yeah, shave your head and we don't want you to talk."
Right.
Because we don't want anybody to know you're not,
not really Russian. That's right. We don't want them to know you're from Minnesota. We don't want them to know that.
So stand there and look mean, which you did.
Yes. Very well. I did that well. Yes.
And you're going to get in. Can you imagine?
No, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how on earth that happened. I grew up playing competitive tennis, and I had to train for 4 or 5 hours a day, then 4 hours on the court, then on the track, then in the weight room, then stretching, then dinner, then homework, then sleep 6 hours and go back to school in the morning and do the whole thing
again.
Do it
all over again.
And that's what it took to play, to compete at the collegiate level and at the early professional level until a health issue took me out. But I can't even imagine.
So hearing my story, because you're not familiar with my story at all,
right.
Which is okay. I mean, I get it. Not everyone's a wrestling fan, but so here you are here. Okay, wait a minute. So you just showed up in an office. They introduced you. Nikita Koloff's Born of the Hallway. You debut on television, having never been in a ring and expected to perform.
Right.
And
I'm trying to figure this out in my head.
Well, figure this. This might help you. What was your weight?
Well, I walked into that office with 285 pounds, 8% body fat, and a 34-inch waist. So I had the look.
Okay.
He was he'd been a professional, not a professional, but he was working on being.
I was an athlete.
He was a football athlete, and he had lifted weights, and he looked like a beast.
Okay.
He looked Like when you looked at him, you go, that guy's a professional wrestler.
So I
right?
looked the part. Now I just had to figure out the mechanics of it. If I could
Right.
get that and the psychology down, then there was a possibility I could become a world champion. So,
Wow.
But I'm guessing, in spite of your tennis career and going out and doing that, which you obviously had a passion for, did you ever think in a million years you would be standing up there at a Ministry to Muslims conference, right?
Oh, not at
sharing
all.
with people how to share, like, really?
Yeah, I never could have imagined that. I was not raised in a Christian home. I did not have any desire to travel. I remember when I was 21 years old, my friends and I were standing around talking, and they said, hey, if you could go anywhere in the world, I had just become a Christian, and they said, if you could go be a missionary anywhere in the world, where would you go? I said, I wouldn't go anywhere. I want to be right here. And never
Here
would
we
have
are.
imagined this.
So right now, next Saturday in Kannapolis, North Carolina, right? It's Ministry to Muslims. It's happening at 9:30 to 5:30 at Charity Baptist Church in Kannapolis, North Carolina. You want to go get registered for that? Or a week from that is the Man Up Intensement at West Asheboro Baptist Church in Asheboro, right there by the zoo. And again, you can go to Kingdom Pursuits, Christian Car Guy. Either one of those is $29 for that one. And you guys is $39? It's $30. So there's $1 more, just saying. You get an extra $1 worth of value if you go to Strong Tower, our Strong Tower. Thank you all for listening today. So much truth coming at you on the Truth Network.